Good. All right, guys, we're here to knock out the post show. Man, I'm here with Pete. Pete was in attendance. Trains at Triumph, but he was in attendance at the show. Man, how did as a spectator, how did you like the show?
I mean, it was the best show that I've seen to date at Triumph. A lot of good jiu-jitsu, a lot of good old school jiu-jitsu, new school jiu-jitsu, leg locks. I mean, it was inspiring. You had some of the kids that train at Triumph doing jiu-jitsu and doing the intermissions. It was great.
And I'll first start off too by just saying, again, shout out to Rug Source. Guys, they put up $2,000 and allowed us to make this $3,000 prize, allowed us to make the $750 second place, and then the $250 for third place. And that's just huge for our jiu-jitsu community. Hopefully, as jiu-jitsu continues to grow, combat sports grow, hopefully, it means more opportunities, more money for the athletes. That's really our biggest goal, is to, make a platform for the athletes, give them some opportunities. With that being said, so you want to first place, he had an amazing run. Vinicius, he did absolutely amazing. Leg locks were on point. He's our 170 champ. And then Diallo got second place. He won the $750. And then Jack Reynolds took third for the $250. And all three of those guys were awesome, but we're here to break down every match that occurred quickly. I know we could be here 2 hours. It's so good, but we're gonna break down the matches. And I guess we'll start off with before we get into the 16. You want to start with the super fight and the combat sambo, which both of those were good matches. But the super fight, Talles versus Julian, it was a good match. I think it came down to Julian got the first takedown, got a good position, and then just never, never let off the gas at that point, except for the very end,
I mean, he's again, they're both so good. Julian's so good. I watched him compete at the New Breed the week before. He was super impressive. I've never seen Talles, do jiu-jitsu in person, but even like his defense was awesome too. I mean, for sure. I have to agree that, losing the position early was beneficial to Julian. Wound up, winning that match.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just, that takedown at the beginning, and then just Julian just did a good job of going from one dominant position to another, as Talles was just defending. At the very end, though, he had a chance to, I know he was down by points, but he did get on top at the end with I think 40 seconds. But at that point, the clock's your enemy, So, but good match to both of them. It was an awesome super fight, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing them on the card in the future. Combat Sambo. I'm very biased. I thought it was the match of the night. Obviously, when you get to see that level of the intensity's coming up, when you get to see punches, kicks, elbows. We saw headbutts. We saw ground and pound, elbows. Those guys, I mean, that was a good fight. And guys, if you're going back and watching that fight, Anish and Quentin, that was probably one of the best combat sambo fights I've seen in person. If you don't know how it's scored, it was only two scores won it. It was 2 takedowns. If you take your opponent down and they hit their back, it's a 4-point takedown. And Quentin essentially did that twice in the match. So it was an 8-0. There was still time left, but if you're up by 8 in combat sambo, the match is over. But I mean, how the level of violence we saw, it was incredible.
I mean, those guys are tough. I mean, they were both getting hit hard too. It was great. I love the combat sambo. Those are always some of my favorite matches when you guys have them here.
Yeah, and it was. I thought both of those guys were. There's moments where I'm like, oh, that strike's gonna end the fight. Yeah. That strike's going to end the fight. The ref's going to stop. Both of them super tough. Those guys you're going to see too on the MMA. That's what's cool about it. They're both. You're going to see them in the future do, I think, really good things in MMA. But yeah, we're gonna break down the first round matches. And Pete, you want to pull up the first match though was Nassim, right?
Nassim.
Yeah. Nassim versus Witt. good match. Witt got in on a good leg lock at the beginning. I know Nassim, hopefully, you know, he'll be all right, but heard a little bit of a pop on the knee. Always concerning. With our rule set, though, all leg locks legal. Man, leg locks are sometimes unforgiving. You know, I think in the night we saw how many leg locks were there. I mean, so many.
For the most part, I think everyone nowadays you need to know how to defend leg locks and attack legs because that's where the progression of jiu-jitsu has gone. You know?
And it's you know what's crazy. You know, Witt was on that leg lock. Didn't you know? I know Nassim is super tough. You know, tweaked his knee, finished the whole match. And then Witt had a transition to the back, and you know, Nassim showed really good. I know Wanda Braga is a good school, very well coached. We know some kids and adults from there. So just really good match. Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. So that made Witt, you know, go ahead and move on. And then that second match, we had Paul Williams versus Vinicius, and you know, good match. Vinicius did his thing though, like what he did to everyone else in the night. Got to his guard, got to a leg, and that was it, you know?
He was so smooth during the whole night. Like, I didn't, you know, he was just unbelievable. His run was unbelievable. And it started against Paul. Not taking anything away from Paul.
Paul had a good match.
You know, I seen him, you know, smoke a bunch of people here too. Like, it was high level jiu-jitsu. Like,
it was. You know, what's crazy about Vinicius, he didn't, there was times that he didn't even look like he was like, I know obviously he was trying, but he was so smooth that it was just like getting to the legs. You know, he made it look effortless in some ways. So not surprised he obviously made it to the finals, ended up winning. What was the next match we got?
It was Mini Money.
Yeah, so Joseph Snyder versus Daniel Wilkins. Shout out to Joseph. Joseph was the lightest competitor on the card, 130 pounds, 17 years old, juvenile blue belt, taking on Daniel, you know, and Daniel's a good, really good MMA fighter. It came down to Daniel got a good takedown at the beginning, got to that good head and arm position, and winded up finishing. But it took a while to finish it, you know. Yeah. Joseph's tough, dude.
No, he's tough. I mean, my kids are a big fan of him. You know,
that's awesome.
He's a juvenile. He got like 120 wins on Smooth Con.
That's ridiculous.
They follow him a little bit. You know, he's great. You know, and that guy Daniel Wilkins, he's just as good. You know?
For sure, and we will see. You know, we'll end up seeing him later. I'm sure Joseph on another card. He's so active, and so. But shout out to him. He came in the lightest. He was 130 pounds. I think Daniel is like closer to 170. So, you know, it is what it is. So the next one, man, this was a good overtime match. Brian Bartlett and Ariel Drucker. This match, we knew, I think a lot of people know Ariel knows he hunts the legs as well. He has a good straight ankle lock. This one went to overtime, and Ariel almost won it with a Uchimata. Mm-hmm. And it was that close, and Brian had a good run. Brian had made it to the semifinals and the third place match. Brian had an awesome run. This could have been Ariel winning, could have changed the whole. I mean, Brian ended up going on and making a run. So that match, I think Ariel had even though he took a loss, still think he has a lot to build off of, and he's only 17.
17 again, too.
And a black belt. And he's going against a black belt. Yep. Brian's a black belt.
And he was 155. He weighed in at 155, too. So it was 15 pounds. I mean, it does account for something.
For sure.
You know, but the future's bright. You know, the future's bright for him. He's something. He's something else, man.
So shout out to Ariel. You did great, man. And then also Brian. You know, he had a really good night. I don't think a lot of people had a lot of film on him going into it, you know what I mean? Compared to some other guys. No, he's a coach at Brunson's gym, and so we knew he was good, but no one had a lot of film on him. So I thought he did great.
How old is he?
I'm not sure. I think Brian is in Masters, yeah. So he
might have been the oldest competitor.
Yeah, I saw actually someone made a comment about Brian that he's in his fine wine jiu-jitsu. So Brian, good job on that. That was a good comment. I forgot who did it. So the next one was Majid and Diallo. I thought why I predicted originally this was gonna be like the match of the night was because I know Diallo can wrestle and I know Majid can wrestle, both MMA guys. Diallo was smart. They started wrestling pretty hard for 30 seconds, and could Diallo hang with them in wrestling? Probably. It would have been a good match. Diallo was smart. He pulled.
Yep.
He ended up pulling, and he was able to get to his game. Ended up, getting the the win.
He got that one by triangle, I think, right? Or was
Yeah, I think it was either that or I forget. I know he pulled though and got to that. That was crazy though. Like again, it was to me. It's like Diallo and both of them, those guys that you have that high level wrestling, but one was Diallo making that choice of like, you know what, I'm just not gonna wrestle and I'm gonna play jiu-jitsu. It's a jiu-jitsu competition, so that would have been one day we just need to have them just wrestle though. We should have those guys do a wrestling match in a cage. That would be incredible. But
I didn't know much about Diallo. I slept on him a little bit going to the bracket, but watching him that night, I mean, I'm a big fan now.
And he's an MMA guy.
Yeah,
so
MMA, I'm a big fan. Now. I mean, he's intense. Old school jiu-jitsu, like, I love it, and I made it, he just had an awesome run.
For sure. And then the next one, Anson Phillips versus Ethan Daly. Man, Anson, he was huge. He looked, he weighed in under what he obviously he probably cut a little bit, but at 170, but he just seemed like a really big guy. And I think that whole match came down to what was cool about what Ethan did though. Man, Ethan has a good guard, right? Everyone knows he has a good guard. What I was pumped about though, Ethan, even though he did get taken down, and ultimately that may have caused those 2 points could have been the match. I like seeing Ethan try. He doesn't care. He wanted to try his wrestling.
He stood up.
I love it.
He sat. It wasn't going his way. He stood up, and I was surprised, but like I was sitting with some of the guys from his gym, and they said he wanted to work on all aspects of his game. So
why not that mindset's really good by Ethan. I think to try. Not be afraid to try his game in a competition like that is stuff he's been working on. But I think that was ultimately that one takedown. Anson hit a big takedown. I think that was probably the difference in the match though, because it ended up being a points deal. But shout out to Anson on that one. The takedown it was awesome. So going forward, we had Billy versus Matthew Legg. I think this was a quick match. Billy had a slick Darce at the beginning. Matthew's good competitor, been kind of competing all over, good coach at Hub City Martial Arts. I think he just got caught early, and sometimes that happens. You get in a bad situation and it sucks, but it is what it is. He had a tap from a Darce pretty quickly, but it just happens sometimes. That's our sport.
You look fastball first pitch. Sometimes you get it, you hit a home run.
Right, and I think that was and Billy has a good pace, man. Again, he's a professional MMA fighter. Their pace, he sent it and it paid off. So that was great. And then the last match, man, this was when we drew the brackets. We knew Josh Murdoch and Jack Reynolds. When those guys were together, it was kind of like, dang, we knew that those guys had a potential to do some really big things in the bracket. They paired up first. It was what we thought it was. It was going to be a good match.
Worth the price of admission alone for me. I really wanted to see this match. I mean, we know CJ.
Right.
Comes here all the time, instructs us. High level black belt, and then we know Jack too.
For sure.
We've seen him at New Breed the other day. Run sub everybody. And he's from around here, so he's often competing too.
And
great.
And Josh, he had Jack in that reverse triangle pretty early. Had Jack into some bad positions the first probably 5 or 6 minutes, and then Jack he ended up weathering that storm. And the thing is, we don't do advantages. So that was a big, us not doing advantages, Josh was probably winning the match up until that point, but nothing on the board. So that can be, an issue.
Psychologically, you can look at the board and be like, what?
How am I now?
I have a minute left now. It's tough.
Jack ended up. The other thing too, if you guys go watch that match, what was intriguing to me was the cage ended up affecting the defense potentially a little bit because it stops you from rolling. So they ended up, going across the cage in a leg lock entanglement, and they were by the cage. So did that end up, affecting the match potentially? Yeah, that's with cage grappling though. It's gonna affect it to some extent.
Strategy's got to change a little bit. You got to have a kind of a wall game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or at least know how it's gonna. And just it's sometimes when you're leg locking, if you need to roll to where the cage is, it's the luck of the draw. I mean, are you gonna be on the good side or the bad side? Sometimes. But that was a great match. It sucks that was first round because I really think Josh. I think Josh could have done really good things in that bracket if he's on any other side, but it is what it is. It's random draw. So moving on to the second round, we had Witt and our champ Vinicius ended up going against each other. Did the ref miss 2 points? You can go look at that on AMP. There's a whole thing about that, but it ended up not mattering. And if you ask Witt, he's like, I don't care. I don't think Witt doesn't care. He was like, to him, it wouldn't have mattered. He's that competitor. He ended up getting subbed by a leg lock. He's like, you know what? I got to get better. That's why I love. That's why we love Witt. Witt's the man.
Shout out to Witt. He's our guy, man.
So and that put Vinicius in the semifinals. Then we had Brian versus Daniel. Again, Brian, we didn't have a lot of film on. Brian ended up doing his thing, beating Daniel to move on to the the semifinals. Brian had an awesome night, man. Like seriously, shout out to him. He did great. Daniel that was a good match though, and we'll see Daniel. Daniel's a pretty active fighter, so look out for Daniel Wilkins for for his MMA career. So other side of the bracket, Diallo versus Anson. Anson is the first one to tell you he does not do jiu-jitsu. So it was like, he's joking, but he's seriously, he's like, I'm a white belt. I don't do jiu-jitsu. I've done jiu-jitsu like 4 times. But this tournament, points, you can get a few takedowns.
To wrestle, right?
Yeah, MMA fight. Really good MMA fighter, 155er. Diallo, though, again, can Diallo wrestle? 100%. Could he have wrestled with him? It's the same thing with Majid. He could have chose to wrestle with Anson. He didn't. He got to his game and ended up getting the finish. So shout out to Diallo. Just played it. Again, I think some people kind of slept on him a little bit. And he played it really smart. The other side, Billy versus Jack. Billy tweaked his knee a little bit. I reached out to him though. He is good. He was just like a little, tweaked a knee, but he's fine. And he was just like, I'm gonna come back better. And Billy was a last second replacement.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. He was one match away from going to the semifinals. So that was awesome to see. So semifinals were set. Vinicius versus Brian. I know we keep saying this. He just did his thing, man. He did his thing. He got to his. That was what the whole night was about. He got to his game before people could get to theirs. Ended up picking up the win over Brian, and then moving on to Diallo and Jack. This was we see so much when we say new jiu-jitsu, old jiu-jitsu, whatever. Like Diallo. He ended up pulling guard. Close guard. Hit a hit bump. Hit bump sweep. We use it. We taught the kids class, hit bump sweep. It's like sometimes fundamentals, when someone decides to go full send on it, can almost surprise some. I think Jack was just surprised for a quick second. Made one mistake. I think they run it back. Jack obviously not going to get hit bumped. It's not going to happen. But we make one that happens with jiu-jitsu. Like these guys are putting on the line. But then shout out to Diallo for his man. Jack was doing everything right. It looked like in terms of like getting out of mount. Diallo just had
the leg tumbling,
it was
leg
great.
Fighting while he was in mount. Heavy pressure. Like it was awesome.
It was great.
It was fun to watch.
And shout out to Diallo. Your mount control on that was unreal. And then what was cool though, Jack did, and I think everyone was on the verge of their edge of their seat. Jack got out.
Yeah.
and there was a minute left, and Jack was spamming some attempts, and everyone's holding their breath like, oh my gosh, Diallo just is he gonna lose? Yeah,
No,
it was like
I
this.
think it was 12. He was up like 12 or 8-0.
Oh, it was insane. It was insane.
And we know how deadly Jack is from anywhere, so it was like.
And Jack actually ended up getting like he got his. So I mean, it could have. And Jack can sub anybody from anywhere. So it was like, man, Diallo played it smart, didn't give up his leg. And so that sent, Diallo and Vinicius to the finals. It sent Brian and Jack to the $250 third place round. Jack ended up beating Brian in that third. But again, shout out to Brian. I know he didn't come home with any money necessarily, but he had a run. He ended up having a lot of matches, good matches. So Brian had an awesome day, and then shout out to Jack. Jack, Diallo, Vinicius, any of these guys could have won. If we ran this bracket, if we random draw this same bracket again, I don't necessarily know if you see the same result. I think there's potentially, for sure, there's a different second and third. And I think potentially even you see a new champ if they run it back. And who knows, guys, with Vinicius is our current, he's the 170-pound champ. He's going to have to defend the belt if he wants to. And I don't see why not, down the road, Diallo, who knows?
Challenges him?
Yeah. Let's see it. Really in the comments, who do you want to see go against Vinicius? Call out some people.
Boxing, they say styles make fights.
Exactly.
I think the same thing in jiu-jitsu too. If they're matched up, differently, potentially there's going to be a different one.
100%. I think it's just, I think like you said, styles make, and if you run the same match 10 times, I don't feel you're going to get the same winner of these guys. That's how good they are.
Right.
So, again, Jack took third. Shout out to him. $250. And again, all that would be, Rug Source helped us get I wanted the third place winner to still get something, get them, $250. At least they can go sign up for another comp. They can get gas to go home. It's good. So the finals match, it was there was some controversy. I didn't see it. I had to go watch it again. Some people believe Diallo did sweep. But again, we could see this for a title defense. I would, potentially, if that's what people want to see, maybe we run that. But Diallo ended up losing by 2 points. There was about 2 minutes left. I know Vinicius knew he was up, and we were joking if Diallo passes, he gets 3 points. It's a $3,000 guard pass. 3 points for $3,000, and he went for it though.
He did.
The other thing too, I don't think. This is not something no one would ever want to lose, right? But again, we appreciate Rug Source so much.
Shout out to Mo.
Yeah, seriously, from Rug Source, that Diallo got to go home with $750. So I know he lost, but he got $750. That's gonna fund these tournaments that he wants to do. He's an MMA fighter. Hopefully, it funds his camps. So that was cool to see. Man, but overall, guys, we appreciate everyone tuning in. And again, in the comments, if you could, give us some suggestions. We do this, we love jiu-jitsu. We love combat sports. What do you want to see next? Do we want to do an absolute tournament? Do we want to do above 170? Do we want to see, a lot of our female athletes are asking, hey, can we do a 8-person cash? We can do anything. We just want to know what you guys want to do. But yeah, Pete, do you have any closing things?
Everyone left with something, because everyone left with a little bit of clap, because just being here and being selected to be in the tournament means something.
There was a lot of people
that didn't make the cut. You made the cut, so you're getting a little clap.
It was awesome. And again, it sucks we couldn't get more people. We have 15 people that didn't get in the tournament, but we want those guys on the super fight. But guys, we appreciate you tuning in, and we will be announcing the next super fight. We're gonna do some sort of event, probably looking in the March, April range. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you.